Hi, I am Harper Lawson. Imagine walking into your school auditorium, heart pounding, and discovering your name plastered across the stage list. Not as an honor, but as a setup. My own sister, Jenna, signed me up to sing at the end-of-year showcase. Not out of love, but to humiliate me. She called it a harmless joke, told everyone I'd chickened out. But I didn't. I stood there, mic silent, crowd snickering, a mocking video circulating on phone, and still, I sang. What if the punchline became your platform? What if being set up was exactly what you needed to rise? Have you ever been someone's joke and turned that moment into your power? Now, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Where are you watching from, and what time is it in your part of the world? I'd love to know. The minute I stepped through the double doors of Roosevelt Middle School, I felt the chill, not from air conditioning, but from the hallway closing in on me. My gaze stayed fixed downward, hand gripping my backpack strap a fraction tighter. These linoleum floors were old friends, and their scuff marks felt like judgment on my shoes. Not from strangers, but from the way everyone seemed to buzz around me. End-of-year talent showcase signs, hand-drawn stars around showcase, like this was Broadway, and not a cramped gym full of folding chairs. I didn't sign up. Why would I? I watched as a girl I barely knew passed me in the hall and muttered with a sideways smile, "Can't wait for your big moment, cave girl." I blinked. Cave girl. A shove toward the sign-up board in the back hall, where students crowded a taped sheet. I stepped forward. There it was, Casey Walters, solo vocal performance, final act. My stomach dropped. A hush of snickers behind me, then Jenna appeared, leaning against the wall with two of her glossy friends, arms folded, eyes locked on me. Her smile was all warmth and poison. "You're welcome," she said. "Everyone deserves their moment, right?" Fake kindness, but I felt the sting. Behind me, whispers, finally crawling out of her cave. A thumbtack jab in my back. I turned away, cheeks hot. The rest of the day was quiet. Home, same setup, same message. Mom cooking oversalted veggies. Jenna talking nonstop about grades, prom committee, her leadership qualities. No one asked me how I was. Dad was gone. Long hours at the office avoided phone calls. Dinner, I sat at the end, invisible. Jenna drifted in and out, triumphant. I stood up to do dishes, heart racing. I wrote in my notebook that night. She did it to embarrass me. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just closed the notebook and watched the ceiling fan spin. Like my world. Day 2, I showed up early. Hallway, nearly empty. Maybe the sign would be down. Hope faded fast. In homeroom, on every desk, a glossy program. Roosevelt Showcase, glitter title on the cover. Girl across caught her breath. "You know it's comedy, right?" Program lands on my desk. It read, "Kachi waffles?" That wasn't even close. A chicken cartoon, mic in hand. I froze, my heart stopped hearing, just pounding. Then Mrs. Carver entered, sipping coffee. She saw it all, shrugged. "It's a joke. Don't take it so seriously." The message was clear. If even teachers treat me like background, why should I matter? That day bled through in gray. I went straight home after school, cutting through backyards to avoid classmates. Enter to chaos. Jenna twirling in a sequined dress. Friends thrown around her like kite strings. I passed unnoticed. One of them teased as I passed. "Vocal cow, right?" Jenna giggled. No defense. Walked upstairs, program in hand. On my desk, I wrote in all caps, "You lit the match first." That paper was no longer a shame. It was proof. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I repurposed it, a spark. Next morning, the rehearsal board showed a lineup. Mine was gone. Instead, finale vocal ensemble, Jenna, Mia, Ethan, Ava. My name had been replaced. I felt a slow implosion. I approached Mrs. Carver. "They changed it?" She shrugged. "Stronger, As a group, she said, builds confidence. I didn't argue. I asked, could I sing my own piece instead? She laughed. You don't need a mic. Let's be realistic. A few students mocked me. I walked out. Bleachers by the band room. I held my notebook, opened a new entry. If they won't let me sing, I'll just speak so loud it sounds like a song. Later, at home, tired of their noise, I taped my lyrics, original arrangement, to the closet door under the dim lamp. I whispered softly, I'm still going to sing no matter what. Night rain fell. I held my mom's old cassette, Lullabies for Casey, Mom's voice recorded when I was 6. I hummed through lines my mother sang softly. Are you going to Scarborough Fair? Then added my own verse. But I walked roads she never could. The next morning, rain glossed leaves. I wore Mom's hoodie, frayed, but comforting, walked into the storm-soaked school, notebook hugged to my chest. Hallway smelled like wet carpet. Backstage, I waited. Mike fumbled to me. Light popped on. I stepped forward. Mike fizzled. Feedback. Then silence. Students clucked. A video flashed behind me, my hallway humming looped with clucking chickens. Laughter. I didn't break. I placed Mike down, grabbed notebook. I sang, unamplified, voice trembling, raw. Lines barely carried, some shushed others. Silence fell. Then curtain. No applause, but a moment of truth. In restroom mirror, eyes steady despite trembling hands, I wrote, no spotlight needed, just truth. Mom tabbed in flashlight when I got home. I said gently, I'll finish this. Morning, empty auditorium. I handed Miles, the AV guy, my CD. Requested clean sound check. Piano, piano, and ocean winds whispered. I sang softly, with lyrics and ambient backing. Miles said softly, You're ready. In the media room, a senior posted a video titled, What They Cut Out. My hallway humming, no clown noises, just music. It went viral in school. Students watched, respectful. A girl from Jenna's group said, I saw the real you. I'm sorry. It was enough. Jenna confronted me in the hallway. She tried to spin her intention. I replied softly, You taught me how to stand still when people threw things, she faltered. I walked on. Backstage again for final show. Other crowd there, parents, teachers, local reporter. Mom sat in the third row, handkerchief in lap. Jenna stood by committee side, sparkly ritual costume. The MC announced, Casey W. solo performance. Silence. I stepped out, paper in hand. Lyrics hummed. I sang softly, center stage, exposing the glimmer of anonymity in my voice. No lighting tricks, just honesty. As I ended, I revealed the program in my hand, misspelled, mocked. I paused. Silence held breath. Then piano teacher stood, then one parent, then row of students. Standing ovation. I didn't smile. I nodded and said quietly, Thank you for hearing me. Then I stepped off and into my mother's hug. Next morning, school quiet with possibility. I found a pale yellow note on my door. Thank you for being the voice for the rest of us. You don't know me, but I heard you. My heart thudded. At school, a bulletin board photo of me titled Silent Impact Award. I'd just passed by. At Main Street Diner, a stranger said, You sang that song, right? Reminded me of my daughter. I nodded and thanked him, voice calm. Jenna texted, You deserve it. No emojis. I didn't reply. Screenshot, deleted. Not anger, closure. That night, I wrote, Sometimes they won't clap, sometimes they'll laugh, but when you speak from your bones, someone hears you. I closed the notebook. Maybe you're in that folding chair. Maybe you're in that hallway. Know this, your voice matters. You don't need a spotlight to be heard. The day after the showcase, something subtle but undeniable had shifted. The corridors at Roosevelt Middle no longer pulsed with whispered jokes or chicken clucks. They were still, almost cautious. I walked down the east wing, past the locker bay, and noticed heads lifting slightly, not mockingly, not even curiously, just acknowledging. There was no flash of sarcasm in their eyes, no smirks being exchanged. I didn't fully understand it at first. But as I passed the trophy case and rounded the corner toward the science labs, I saw it. Taped neatly to the wall beside the student council bulletin board was a single printout, a still photo of me on stage, caught mid-note. No lights, no mic, just a snapshot of a girl in a hoodie singing softly into the silence. Below it, in thick black Sharpie, were 6 words: Winner. Silent Impact. Student Vote 2024. I didn't stop. I didn't touch the paper. I just kept walking, breath steady, footsteps light. At my locker, a boy I didn't know from 8th grade gave me a quiet nod. Nothing more, no words. But I felt the weight of that nod. It meant I wasn't invisible anymore. That afternoon, after the final bell, I headed to the local diner just off Main Street. Marlowe's, the kind of place where the napkins are thin and the jukebox only works half the time. I grabbed a sandwich and a cherry soda, sat at a booth by the window. The rain had started again, light this time, like the sky was sighing. Across the aisle, an older couple shared a slice of pie. The man caught my eye as he folded his napkin. "You're the one who sang that folk song, right?" he asked. His voice was low, gentle. I nodded, unsure what to say. His wife smiled. "It reminded him of our daughter," she said softly. "She sang too, not professionally or anything, just around the house. Your voice, it brought her back." I swallowed hard, smiled faintly. "Thank you," I whispered. They didn't linger, didn't ask for anything else. They just paid their check, slid out of the booth, and left me sitting there with my soda going flat. But my heart felt full in a way it hadn't in a long time. Back at home that evening, Jenna didn't say anything. She didn't have to. The silence between us wasn't thick with resentment anymore, just weight. She moved slower around the kitchen, quieter. Maybe she knew something had changed. Maybe she didn't, but I did. Later, in bed, I opened my notebook and reread the line I'd written the night before. The voice they tried to bury. Underneath, in a different ink, I added, "But roots grow deeper than they think." I closed the book slowly, not like it was ending, but like I was bookmarking a moment I'd remember years from now. The next few days passed in a kind of muted hum. Teachers nodded at me more. One even mentioned that my lyrics showed remarkable restraint. I didn't comment. I didn't need to. By Friday, someone had printed a list of top 5 most memorable showcase moments, and my name was at number 1. Not Goofy Chicken Girl, just Casey Walters, Folk Revival. It didn't make me giddy. It made me feel grounded. One afternoon, I found myself alone in the music room. Mrs. Carver had left early for a dentist appointment, and someone had forgotten to lock the door. I stepped inside, fingers grazing the edge of the piano. It wasn't polished. It was chipped, slightly off-key, like it hadn't been tuned in months. But it was familiar. I sat down and played a few notes, soft, searching. Then I opened my notebook, flipped to the page with the song Mom used to sing. I began again, not for an audience, not for applause, just to feel her in the room. Each note anchored me. Each lyric felt like stitching a memory back together. And halfway through, I didn't even realize I wasn't alone anymore. A girl from 7th grade, Hannah something, stood in the doorway. She didn't speak. She just held up her phone and mouthed, "That's beautiful." I stopped playing, heart racing. She didn't move. Just set the phone down on the bench and walked away. I didn't follow her. I didn't ask what she was filming. But later that night, I'd find the video uploaded with the caption, "Sometimes the real performances happen after the curtain falls." That video would hit 5,000 views in 3 days. By Monday, I could feel the shift, like a new gravity pulling around me. Not heavy, just different. My homeroom desk, usually the one nobody glanced at, now held a folded note on top of the books I'd left Friday. No name, no frills. Just a torn notebook page with neat handwriting. "You reminded me it's okay to be quiet and still be loud." I stared at the paper for a long moment before slipping it between the pages of my own notebook, right next to the chicken flyer I had taped weeks ago. It no longer felt like a wound. It felt like armor. I didn't mention it to anyone. I didn't bring it up in class. I just carried it, in my pocket and in my chest. The kind of weight that doesn't hurt, just keeps you from floating away. At lunch, I noticed something even stranger. The teasing had stopped. Not fizzled, stopped. No more chicken sounds, no more sideways glances. A few kids even nodded. A boy from Jenna's friend circle handed me a pencil I'd dropped without saying anything weird, just returned it. I muttered thanks, and he shrugged like it was nothing, and maybe it was to him, but to me, it meant the world. That afternoon, while walking home, I decided to take a different route. I cut through the library, where the school sometimes put up post-showcase displays. There, on the small community board near the checkout desk, was a collage of snapshots from the talent show. Most were group shots, jazz hands, someone mid-drum solo. But right in the middle was a photo of me, hoodie, notebook, no mic, singing. The caption underneath, "Courage doesn't always shout. Sometimes it just sings." I blinked and looked away before the tears could get too close. That night at dinner, Dad was actually home. He sat at the far end of the table, glancing occasionally at Jenna's phone while she chattered about college visits and fashion fundraisers. I stayed quiet until he cleared his throat. "Saw the article in the community newsletter," he said, voice awkward. "Heard you sang." I nodded, mouthful of mashed potatoes. He paused. "That takes guts." Then he went back to eating like he hadn't said something monumental. Jenna didn't say a word. She just kept her eyes on her plate. After dinner, I lingered in the hallway near the living room. She finally looked at me. Her voice wasn't smug this time. "You were really good," she said. I didn't answer, didn't smile, just gave a small nod and walked upstairs. In my room, I added a new line to my notebook. They expected a whisper. I gave them an echo. And then something new happened. My inbox, the one attached to my school account, started filling with messages. Not a flood, but a steady stream. "Where did you learn to write like that? Do you have more songs? My little sister watched your clip 10 times. I didn't know how to answer at first. I wasn't used to being asked anything, but eventually, I replied, "Thank you. I'm still learning, but I'd love to share more." And I meant it. I began uploading small audio files to a private blog, my lyrics, my melodies, stripped down to basics. No glitz, just words and voice. In a week, I had 70 subscribers, quiet ones mostly, people who didn't want to comment. But they showed up, they listened, and that was more than enough. One afternoon, I found myself back at the piano again. This time, I wasn't alone. A freshman named Jamie walked in, clutching a clarinet case. He asked shyly, "Mind if I practice while you play?" I nodded. No words, just music. We stumbled at first, offbeat and awkward. But slowly, something started to click. Notes aligned. We found rhythm. That impromptu session turned into a regular thing. Tuesdays and Thursdays, 15 minutes after last bell. Sometimes it was just us. Sometimes others joined. We didn't call it anything. Didn't need to. It was ours. By the following week, even the teachers were different with me. Not dramatically, but you notice when someone starts calling you by name instead of pointing. In English class, Mr. Durham, who usually skimmed past my desk, lingered during independent writing. "You've got a cadence in your prose," he said, tapping my journal gently. "Feels like you're writing to be heard, not just read." I wasn't sure what to say. I'd never heard anyone talk about my writing like that before. I just nodded and let the compliment settle somewhere quiet in my chest. In gym, Coach Taylor, who usually only addressed the loud or athletic kids, asked if I wanted to lead warm-ups. I didn't say no. I didn't say yes either. But he nodded anyway. "Next time, maybe," he said. People had started to look at me like I had potential instead of just presence. I didn't fully trust it yet, but I wasn't afraid of it either. One afternoon, as I left school with my hoodie sleeves pushed up in the late spring sun warming the back of my neck, I passed the bulletin board near the main office. A new flyer was posted. Student Voices Assembly now accepting performers. It wasn't mandatory, wasn't even well advertised, but it had a line that stopped me. Tell us what it means to be heard. I stood there for a full minute, heart thudding like it had its own mic. Later that night, I took out my notebook and stared at the old program still taped in the back, the one that once mocked me. I flipped the page and began outlining a new piece. It wasn't a song this time. It was a spoken word monologue, something raw. I titled it, The Sound of Still. I didn't tell anyone I submitted it. Rehearsals were casual, no pressure, no big lights, just a circle of folding chairs and an open mic in the art room. When it was my turn, I stepped up, voice calm but certain. They called me a chicken, but chickens don't sing lullabies. Chickens don't remember their mother's hum through cassette static. Heads lifted, some tilted. I spoke every line like I was planting a flag in the silence. No stumbles, no apologies. When I finished, there was no roaring applause, just that kind of heavy quiet that means people are thinking. Afterward, the student coordinator, a senior named Micah, pulled me aside. "You ever think about publishing?" he asked. "Your voice on paper, it could change someone's whole day." I laughed quietly. "One day at a time," I said. But the idea didn't leave. A few days later, something unexpected happened. Jenna knocked on my bedroom door. No entourage, no script, just her, holding a folded fliere. "There is a showcase at the rec center," she said, voice awkward. "A real one. You should try it." I stared. "Why?" I asked, not angrily, just honestly. "Because..." She paused. "Because the first time you sang, I thought it was funny. The second time, it made me uncomfortable. But not because you were bad. Because I knew I wouldn't be brave enough to stand there if they laughed at me." That was the closest thing to an apology I'd get from her. I didn't hug her, didn't cry. I just nodded. "Thanks," I said. She left without saying more, and for once, I didn't feel like chasing the silence to fill it. I signed up for the rec center showcase the next morning. The form was short, just name, age, performance type. Under type, I wrote original acoustic, minimal mic. I didn't tell anyone at school. Not Jenna, not even Jamie. I wanted it to be mine, entirely mine. Rehearsals happened after hours, in a chilly back room with mismatched chairs and one ancient speaker that fizzed every time someone touched the dial. My set was slotted at the end. I didn't mind. Being last meant no one would talk over me to get to the next thing. The night of the show, I wore jeans, a flannel shirt, and Mom's hoodie tied around my waist. My notebook was tucked into my guitar case. No glitter, no makeup, just breath and nerves and hope. The crowd was small. Parents, siblings, a few neighborhood kids. The room smelled like popcorn and Lysol. When they called my name, correctly this time, I walked up, adjusted the mic, but didn't use it, and began. The first chord trembled a little, but my voice didn't. I told the story of the hallway, the flyer, the laughter, the silence. I didn't sing for perfection. I sang like I was whispering something important to a friend. When I finished, no one whooped or shouted, but every eye stayed on me. That meant more than noise. Afterward, as I packed up my case, a little girl in a blue jacket tugged on my sleeve. "I want to write songs like you," she said, eyes wide. Her mom stood behind her, smiling. "She's been afraid to audition for anything," she said, "but tonight changed that." I bent down, handed her my extra notebook. "Start with one line," I said. "The rest will come." Back home, I laid the guitar gently beside the bed, took out the old cassette from the drawer. I didn't play it, just held it. I thought about Mom, her voice, her faith in me long before I knew I needed it. Then I opened my notebook to the back and added one more entry. What they tried to erase became the signature of everything I'd ever be. The next day at school, the hallways felt warmer. Not louder, just lighter. Jamie gave me a high five in the band room. Mr. Durham asked if he could submit my monologue to a statewide student writing contest. I said yes. Then I said thank you. The janitor I'd seen all those weeks ago, the one who nodded when I sat at the piano, paused as I passed and simply said, Told you that voice mattered. It wasn't grand. It didn't need to be. Weeks later, the school printed a year-end magazine. Inside was a spread on unexpected voices, and mine was there. Photo, quote, and a small section from my piece. Jenna cut it out and taped it to the fridge. Didn't say anything, just taped it. That was her way. And I let it be enough. The school year ended not with a bang, not even with a performance, but with a quiet Friday morning as the halls emptied and backpacks thudded across shoulders one last time. I walked through those doors again, Roosevelt Middle, and realized that place no longer shrunk around me. I'd grown too big for the cave they tried to keep me in. And you, watching this, maybe you're still in your version of that hallway. Maybe someone's written your name in a joke or taken your voice and tried to remix it into something laughable. If they did, know this, they gave you a stage. And the mic? You don't need it. You were always loud enough. You were always meant to be heard. Don't let anyone trick you into believing silence means defeat. Sometimes, it's just your story tuning itself before the song begins.